Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Stukent expert session. My name is Trevor Erikson, and I am pulling double duty today. I will be the organizer for the webinar, and I'll also be presenting today. I'm excited to be able to share some of the things that I've learned with some of my past roles in some other organizations, and excited to talk about a topic that um, is very interesting to me. And just like all the other expert sessions, if you have questions, feel free to punch those in the chat box on the right. And as time permits at the end, we will try and get um, to those questions. So without further ado, I'm gonna to jump right into this. As you can see, I'm going to be talking about YouTube and how to market YouTube for your online business or for your small business. And I will be um, I'll be referring to YouTube and video interchangeably. So don't get confused. If I'm talking about video, I'm also talking about YouTube. And so to go over the agenda for what we're going to cover during this webinar, I'm going to give you a little bit of my background. We're going to talk about why video is important, how we can use video for marketing, and what we can do now to get going with your video marketing. And then I'll also include some helpful links at the end where you can go to do some further research and increase your own knowledge after this session. So, background. Before I jumped on board with Stukent, I worked for a national sports retail chain called Just Sports. It's located the majority on the Pacific Northwest. So if you're in the Portland or Washington or Northern California area, you'd be familiar with Just Sports if you've been to any of the malls. And we had over near roughly 30 retail locations. And when I when I jumped on board with Just Sports, I um, took over all the online marketing for the brand. They currently had um, a website. It pretty much just existed. Wasn't much to it. There are a few products here and there, but that was it. There was no marketing at all involved, and so that was the main role I had when I started with Just Sports. Was kind of ramping that up and getting the brand online. So I started in 2010, and um, by the time we ended up selling the company three years later, I'd increased the online sales 343%. And throughout this webinar, I'll talk about how I was able to do that in regards to online video, and online video was definitely a huge part of that increase. Another big thing that I have to mention here was Just Sports was a family-owned business, and so uh, we didn't have a lot of marketing money to throw around at different things to test. So we had to be pretty creative, and definitely had close to nothing as far as a budget. And that's how we went about. That's how we started with YouTube. Was pretty much at a zero, coming from a zero budget angle. So that's a little bit of my background. Let's get into why YouTube, why video. And the biggest reason is this. We all know that Google is the number one search engine, and the question comes up, well, who's number two? If you're not very familiar with YouTube, you wouldn't know this, but YouTube is actually the second largest search engine. That's why video is important. And like what this says right here, YouTube has changed the way we discover information online. And so I'm pretty positive to say that within the last week, anyone who is listening to this has probably jumped on YouTube to search out an answer, to um, get a better view of something they may be purchasing, to get an idea of how it works, or just for pure entertainment. And so I said, within the last week, I could probably even bump that up to within the last day, and for some people, within the last hour. So that's a huge reason we why we want to get on YouTube. So let's talk about some of the statistics here. The size of YouTube. These are pretty crazy. Okay. So YouTube processes more than 3 billion searches a month. And if you do the math, that equals out to about 5,700 searches a minute. Every minute, 5,700 different searches are performed on YouTube. That is crazy. The graphic to the right of that shows you the size of YouTube compared to the next most popular search engines, Bing, AOL, Ask, and Yahoo. So YouTube isn't just bigger than each of those. YouTube's actually bigger than all of those combined. So that's pretty remarkable what YouTube's been able to do. Let's talk about the reach. Okay, how who is it reaching? How far is it going? So a these are all from the study. All of these graphics and research, and the information is down in the left hand corner here. But YouTube reaches more U.S. adults ages 18 to 34. Now, depending on your target audience, I mean, that's a prime target audience. But they reach more U.S. adults in that age than any cable network. So the viewers on YouTube that you are reaching are prime, and studies have shown that they're spending more time there than actually watching TV. So you can see how we as humans have taken our valuable time, and how we've transitioned that over to the computer, into online viewing rather than the traditional cable networks. As far as frequency goes, so how often are videos being published or uploaded? So 100 hours of video are being uploaded every minute. That number right there is probably, well, that is really crazy. To think of how much content is being thrown into YouTube. 100 hours a minute, crazy. So another report was performed by Animoto, and this report is geared more towards e-commerce, and that's kind of where I want to focus on for the remaining of this webinar is how we can use YouTube to increase our brand, or to increase our marketing efforts through your online business, through your small business, and that's in large part through e-commerce. 73% is an important number. We'll get to that in just a second, but I believe there were about 1,000 people polled in this report, and 96% of them found that videos were helpful for making online purchasing decisions. That's 96%, pretty much 100%. I think that's that's kind of obvious. If you can view a video before making a purchase of that product, chances are you're going to find that helpful, unless the video is just horrible. So the next statistic is 71% said watching video increased their trust in the brand. So yeah, if you hop on a website that has a ton of product, and you're jumping around from product to product, and you're wondering if you should purchase it from this site or from another site, and there is no video there, then chances are you may jump onto another website, or you may Google a product review of that product, and land on a website that has a video review of that website. And since that website provided you with that video, they provided you with that trust and confirmation that you're a reputable brand. Your chances of purchasing something from that company drastically increase than the website or brand you left from to get to this website. The most important statistic in this report that I thought was that 73% of the participants said that they'd make a purchase after viewing a video. That's those are dollars, okay? Those are dollars added to your company because of video viewing. And 70% is a large enough number to me to get me excited about creating video content to not just be social and to add value and trust, but to also increase the bottom line through customers making purchases. So the big question here is, are they watching your video? Do you have videos for them to watch? So let's dive into that a little bit. We're gonna jump into the different ways that we can use YouTube as a marketing platform, and there's 5 video types that I like to talk about, or I like to recommend to people to start with. If you have a base of these 5 different types of videos, granted, some companies don't have the access or the product line to create all of these different types of videos, but to be able to spread that video type out is awesome for your YouTube channel. But anyways, we're going to talk about these 5, and hopefully the idea here and goal here is that you start getting excited about producing these types of content, and the ideas start flowing in your head on how you can implement this into your own business or to the company for which you are working with right now. So the first video type is video unboxings. Second is how-tos and tutorials. The third is product and comparison videos. The fourth, probably my favorite, is product review videos. We did a lot of those with Just Sports. And then the fifth is kind of the fun one. It's the torture testing. So let's jump into video unboxings first. Now, if you're familiar with the shoe game, okay, it's a crazy. There's a crazy mantra around the shoe game, and people spend a lot of money on buying shoes. And if, believe it or not, the shoes that they buy, more likely those who are in the shoe game don't usually end up wearing those shoes. They just collect them. They're shoe collectors, and being able to show off their stash is very important to them. And so a very popular video amongst that demographic are these video unboxings. And so people get a kick out of you grabbing the hottest shoe off the shelf. You've ordered it online, it's came in, and you pretty much set up a camera and you film yourself taking the product out of the box, pulling it out of the wrapper, pulling it out of the plastic, unwrapping it, whatever you need to do to get that out. And then you go into it kind of transitions into a product review. And that's why I have do your research here, is because people aren't going to find your video very informative if you don't really know what you're talking about. You just had some cash and you purchased a shoe and you wanted to be cool and get into the unboxing video game. So you need to do your research. You need to be able to know what to sound like you know what you're talking about, and you need to know what you're talking about. The next tip that I have for these type of videos is to get the item out quickly. It's fun to show, how it's packaged. A great example is an Apple product. It's so fun to hold that Apple product in your hand. It's nice and clean and shiny, but show that and then move on to what they really want to see, and that's what is inside. The third is to don't be obvious. This goes back to doing your research. If you don't do your research, then you kind of stumble around and start stating the obvious. Example that I have here is, the shoe is a nice blue color. Okay, that's cool. We can see that from the video, but tell us something that we don't know. Maybe, describe the smell to us, because we love the smell of new sneakers, or throw it on a scale and let us know what it weighs. Those types of things. The next video type is how-tos and tutorials. Now, we did a handful of these with Just Sports, and you see with the image on the right here, we actually filmed this, in a family member's house. Like I said, zero budget, and we did some research, and we figured that a lot of people were out searching for the proper ways to wash their new jersey. People will go and spend over $100 on a jersey, and then, after the first wash, they've ruined it and totally wasted their money. And so we did a tutorial on how to properly wash and care for the new Nike jerseys, football jerseys. You want to keep these type of videos fairly short and simple. Moving from point to point to get the viewer from start to finish as fast as possible. An example that just popped in my head just barely is when you want to Google how to, let's say, or you want to learn how to do something new in Photoshop. Okay. You don't have the time to sit there and watch a 15-minute video on how to do this process, this process, this process, this process. For 15 minutes. More than likely, you want to get in, you want to know how to do it, and get out. So be respectful of your viewers' time, and be grateful that they landed on your video. And by doing that, move them through the process as quick as possible. Moving on to the next slide, it's nice to provide summary slides in the beginning and end. So there's a saying by Dale Carnegie. He talks about how to help someone understand what you're trying to teach them. And so he says, and I paraphrase kind of what he was going with this, and he says, tell your audience what you're going to tell them, then tell them, and then tell them what you told them. And so doing this, it allows you to prep your viewers, prep your customers of what's about to happen to them. Then you tell them what's happening to them. And then when you're done, you tell them what you told them. And so as far as video wise, it's nice to kind of throw up an image or a slide of the process of what's about to happen. And then obviously you're going to go through and you're going to show them how to do it. And at the end, you're going to remind them step by step, just in text, in a slide, and verbally, of what you just told them. That's a nice habit to get into with a lot of things, not just with video. And another great example is something we've done with some of our Stukent videos, especially with our explainers and our simulation guide videos, are to really fill out that, YouTube gives you a description box where you can write in content. Fill those out. It's not only good for being, writing relevant, search engine friendly content to get your videos found through search, but it's nice to provide more content for your viewers. And so, for our example, we have a simulation guide where we take students through, the proper steps in setting up their first online ad campaign within our simulation. And some people may just want to know how to edit your team name or update a new logo. And instead of sitting, through the entire 8-minute video of this, we give them an option to go right to that point in the video. And that's all done through YouTube's show notes in the description. So that's easy to do. And I suggest doing that as well. So let's move on to the third video type. And that's a comparison video, or comparison video amongst, 2 to 3 to, as many products as you want. And one of an awesome example of a comparison video, which I landed on not too long ago, was the Jetboil versus the Reactor. These are backpacking camping stoves, very light, durable. You take with you backpacking. And what this guy has done on YouTube is done an awesome comparison between these two products. He's, you need to know what the key metrics are as far as what people are searching for. So if I'm trying to find one of these, if I'm trying to decide which one of these two products I'm going to purchase, as a creator, I need to know what those metrics are so that I can test them against each other. And to give you an example of what this guy did, was he timed how fast it took for both of these two products to come to a boil. And then he also weighed in each of the fuel tanks at the bottom to see the efficiency, how much fuel it took to get to a boil. And those are, pretty important, things when it comes to whether or not I want to purchase one of these products. So knowing the key metrics in your products compared to your competitors is a big deal. Now, to give you an example of something, that I'm working on right now in the process of, other than this Jetboil example, is a video about a real or fake jersey. So I understand that. I know that there's a lot of people out there searching. They want to know if the jersey that they're purchasing is a real or fake jersey, because there's a lot of cheap sites out there that mask that and hide that. And, people don't know that their jersey is fake until it gets to their house, and they feel kind of bummed that they spent the money on a fake jersey. So, what I would do with this video here is I'd have an example of a real jersey and a fake jersey, same color, same everything, so that we can go through visually all the differences in the fake and the real jersey, and providing that video for your customers or for people just searching on YouTube is extremely valuable, especially if you catch them before they've made the purchase, because once they see that they know what you're talking about, more than likely, if you have a website that sells jerseys and you've just showed them your knowledge and your passion for the product, then more than likely they're gonna do what you say. So if you provide them a way to purchase that jersey, more than likely they're going to continue through the line and purchase that jersey from you. So once again, with the product comparison videos, it's very important to know the key metrics, what people want with your product. Now, like I said, product reviews one of my favorite types because as far as a business side, as long as you have a product, you can do a product review. And so they're really easy to do. And if it's your product, more than likely, you're fairly knowledgeable about that product. So it doesn't take a whole lot of prep time to create these types of videos. Once again, some of the key points to remember here with these types of videos are doing your research, knowing your product, um, moving through quickly. We made the mistake with some of our initial videos with just sports in the beginning. Um, we 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 kept the duration longer than they should have, uh, and we lost a lot of viewership. We didn't get as many people viewing the video all the way through, and that's kind of an important thing to Google. So move quickly. A key thing here, and if you see the image here on the right, is talk about that which the eyes can't see. So if you're looking at this image and you're watching this, you can see that the gloves look awesome, not only because of the color, but because they're Seahawks. I'm a Seahawks fan, so I got to throw that in there. But what they don't know is they don't know how they feel on your hand. They can't see that. They don't know how grippy they are. So I remember in this video, we showed how grippy they were. We slapped the hands together, and you can hear them sticking, the gloves sticking to each other, and that proves the fact that these gloves are sticky, and that's what athletes want, receivers want in a glove is, they want them to be sticky so they can catch the balls. Now, another kind of a trick here with doing product review videos is to use photos. You don't have to, when you're creating these videos, you don't have to just press record on your camera and have it be all video. Okay, you can throw in some photos, and with most video editing platforms or softwares, you can make an image. You can turn an image into motion. You can add motion to your image, and you can zoom in and you can zoom out, and it adds a nice little effect to your video. It mixes up the actual video from some imagery, and usually you can get a higher quality picture if you have a really nice camera. You can get that. You can show that detail a lot more with photos. So use photos. The next video type is torture testing, and this can be kind of fun. There's so many great examples online of this, and I'm sure if you've heard of, if you've viewed a torture testing video, more than likely you've probably viewed the Will It Blend video series by Blendtec, where they put electronics into the Blendtec blender and blend them up. And it's, they're entertaining to watch, and they do it very, very discreetly. You get done with the video and you sit there for a second and you think, wow, I just got marketed to by Blendtec, because what I thought I was watching was simply just an iPad being chopped up. But really, what really just happened was a blender just chopped up an iPad or an iPhone. That's insane. Chopped it right up into pieces, into dust, pretty much. And so, as far as building the Blendtec brand, these videos, awesome. An example of what we did at Just Sports, and I think what's a good way to show you this is to actually just show you the video. It's about a minute long is all. But New Era, a couple years ago, came out with a let me go back. Came out or won the license to create or to do all of the NFL sideline hats. And so a new hat type that they came out with was they had a feature, kind of a water repellent feature on the NFL hats. So we wanted to show people if this water repellent actually worked. So I'm going to press play here. Hopefully everything works out fine. And we'll just view this video real fast. We're going to show you how cool this new New Era on-filled hat is. This is called the Dry Era. It's a new technology by New Era, and it's water resistant. So we're going to let some water drop, pour on our New Era hat right here, and show you this cool new feature. See how that's just repelling it off? Let's try it one more time. Bam! Okay, just to show you the difference, this is just a plain Nike hat, no water resistant spray, nothing on it, right out of the box. So check this out. See how the water sits on top and soaks in, doesn't repel off. So how do you like those new NFL FC hats?
They're great. I love them for the summer because they keep my head super cool. And even in the rain, it keeps your head super dry because the water just repels right off of it.
So yeah, if you notice in that video, we kind of we did a, I guess you could say we did a little mixture of torture testing and product comparison. But that's just to give you an example of different ways you can do these torture testing videos. I mean, you know, we didn't break anything. We just showed a key feature of these new hats, and got a lot of views from that video. So before we wrap this session up, this is the most important part. So we've gone over kind of why videos are important, why YouTube is very, very important to your online strategy and e-commerce strategy. And we've gone over the different types of videos that you can start creating. And so now we're going to talk about what we can do now to get started. Now, obviously, the first thing is create your YouTube channel. Now, you'll be extremely surprised at how many companies don't have a YouTube channel, or they do and there's nothing on it. So you may be, you may have just been hired onto a new job, and you're helping them out with online marketing. Maybe you're doing some PPC. Maybe you're doing a bunch of everything, a little bit of everything. And your boss comes to you and says, "Hey, we want to do video. So you're in charge of that. Good luck." Well, you need to, this is you doing your YouTube video. So your boss comes to you and says, "You're in charge of getting our YouTube channel up. Good luck." Well, here you go. Dive right in. I'm not going to explain to you how to go through and get that YouTube channel created, but you can be done in less than a half hour to fill all the most important information out. Obviously, if you don't have videos yet, that's that's kind of a big thing, and you'll want to get working on that. But make sure that whatever YouTube allows you to fill that out. And so the next thing that is extremely important to do is to do an assessment. Figure out what your company, what your brand owns or has access to that majority of people don't have. So, example with going back to Just Sports was every day we receive shipments of brand new product that people hadn't seen before, and a product that not everyone has access to all of the most famous, popular NFL players, their jerseys. Sorry, we did. We had a warehouse full of those jerseys. So we could go upstairs and grab a jersey, shoot a video review of a jersey, in a few hours, and be done with it. And that doesn't cost us anything. That's just a benefit of uh, of the type of company that we had, and the type of company that you work in, that sells products. You're going to have those same types of things. So you're going to want to sit down and really, dive into your product line and figure out what products you can feature. Next thing is to create a publishing schedule. We didn't do this at first at Just Sports, and it, if I could go back in time, I would do this from day one, and that's to create a publishing schedule. So I'm not saying to upload a new video every day. Obviously, if you have the resources to do so, do so. But more than likely, your time is going to have to be managed amongst a lot of different things. And so you're not going to be able to just sit there and pump out videos all day. So figure out what you and your team or your business can do. And if that's one video a week or if that's one video a month, do that and be consistent with it. Write it down on a schedule, plan it out. And the last thing is to just do it. Okay. You can sit there and fill out a calendar, and you can get your team all, pumped up. You can have them go out and do a bunch of research of your products and get an idea of which product tests you're going to run, or reviews, comparisons, whatever it may be. You can get extremely excited about all of that. Write it down. But if you don't do it, then it doesn't happen. It doesn't get published on YouTube. And that's the biggest thing, is to go out and do it. So some great resources to wrap this up. These are some places that I like to hang out on when I need some inspiration for video, especially when I was doing this with Just Sports. There's a guy online by the name of James Wedmore. I'll provide links in the show notes to all of these. But this guy's a master at YouTube at video creation, and he doesn't necessarily have an e-commerce business where he's selling products in the means of iPads or goods. He sells mostly informational products, but how he optimizes and the ideas that he has are awesome. So you want to follow him on YouTube and make sure you're keeping up to date with the things that he's doing. Next is the next site, or the next thing on the list right there, is Real SEO, and they're pretty much a website completely dedicated to video marketing. So check them out. Social Media Examiner and Social Media Today. Those are a general social media website pumping out daily fresh content. But I'll provide the link in the show notes to the YouTube marketing topics or tags that they have. So, you can bookmark that, and you can, if all you want to do is learn more about YouTube, you don't have to mess with all the other stuff. Lastly is a distilled video marketing guide. Pretty interesting. There's definitely a lot of content, good content in that guide, and I'll link that up too in case you want to start that from start to finish. And anyways, I hope if I've been able to do one thing, through this expert session, is to get the juices flowing in your brain on how you can incorporate YouTube into what you're currently doing, and to get excited about video, because there's so much opportunity out there. I mean, we've seen the numbers, and those numbers are just going to continue to grow as video is more easily and readily available for us at our fingertips, literally. And so to get in with YouTube now and video marketing and becoming pros at that is going to be a huge benefit for you now and to future employers down the road. So that's that wraps up my presentation on YouTube and video marketing. Okay, so it looks like we have some questions in the queue. I'm going to jump over to those real fast. So the first question is, how often should you post to YouTube? That's a great question, one with a very difficult answer because there's not really a set number. You should be posting 3.5 videos per month or per week. There's just not a set number there. The most important factor that goes into this is being consistent. So if you're able to post, one video a month, post one video a month. If you have a couple days where you can blast videos out, create a bunch of content for videos, do that. But the next day, don't post all of them to YouTube. Spread those out. Use your video planning schedule. And if you've created 5 videos, run one a week for the next month, and be consistent and spread that out. The next question is, how long should your videos be? Well, this is another great question here. My answer to that is as short as possible, but with enough valuable content that viewers find your video helpful. So there's a fine line there. I've seen some recent studies where anything, your target frame should be 5 minutes or less. Now, the quicker that you can show your product and still be effective is the best, because like I said earlier, people's time are valuable. There's so many things competing for your time. They're not going to sit there for 20 or 15 minutes and watch your video. Okay. And that's a huge factor that Google uses to rank and index videos is how many users click on your video to watch it, and how long is the duration. What's the duration of them being on your video? So they can gauge that. And if someone hops on your video and they're off within 20 seconds, YouTube is going to know that you provided a video that isn't very valuable, and so they're not gonna rank you high in the search results. But if they make it through 75%, 90% of your video, more than likely you've provided really really good content, and YouTube sees that and knows that they should rank you higher up in the search results for that key term or for that video. So that's my answer. Shorter videos allow you to retain viewers longer, and that's my answer. So no, I don't see any other questions. So that pretty much wraps it up. If you'd like to connect with me, I'm on Twitter at @T_Erikson. You can go to my website. It's always a work in progress, so bear with me on that, but it's trevorerikson.com. And then if you want to follow me on YouTube, subscribe to my channel, T Erikson 11. I'm pretty random in the things that I post. Most of it is outdoors type stuff, but I do do some product review testing and different things like that. So anyways, connect with me. I'd be more than happy to connect with you as well. So I hope you enjoyed and I hope you are more excited about jumping onto video and increasing your brand's visibility on YouTube. Thank you.